Hello, I'm Chris Fox. I'm Professor of Evaluation and Policy Analysis at Manchester Metropolitan University. I've been working in the field of crime reduction and criminal justice for around 25 years, since I originally did my PhD looking at the management of community safety partnerships. Since then, I've consistently worked over the years on a whole range of evaluations of different criminal justice interventions and programmes. Over the last 10 years, a lot of my work has focused on the ways in which public services, including in criminal justice, deliver person-centred or co-produced or sometimes co-created models of work. And my first piece of advice really relates to this. I've seen lots of evidence, both within criminal justice, but also more widely across the public sector, that these kind of models, these person-centred, co-produced ways of working with people deliver really impressive results. They're not always easy to evaluate, and it's not always easy to quantify the outcomes associated. But what I've seen suggests that people in the criminal justice system respond very well to those models of working, that they are more satisfying for frontline staff, and that they deliver a better understanding of risk because people have fuller conversations and a deeper understanding of each other, and that in turn helps with risk management. What I've also learned from my research and from the research of others is that it's not enough to simply implement approaches to personalised and co-produced working. If that's really going to become embedded in organisations, organisations themselves have to change, and ultimately systems have to change. So I'll give you some practical examples of that. If you're going to work in a personalised and a co-produced way, it requires sometimes a different set of skills and attitudes and behaviours from frontline staff, and that then impacts on the way people are recruited, with an emphasis on values-based recruitment, and the ways in which people are trained and supported, with an emphasis on reflective practice. Another example would be the types of leadership that I think are needed for these approaches to work. So there are lots of leadership models out there, but leadership models that focus on relational and authentic models of leadership, and there are various different models that touch on those. Those to me seem the ones from the work I've done and the work I've read that look to be the models of leadership that are best able to support this particular way of working. And then if we just sort of take it out another layer, if you like, and think about how organisations relate to each other, relational, person-centred, co-produced ways of working is about individuals, but it's also very much about how individuals relate to significant people in their lives and the communities they live in. So organisations that are delivering those kind of approaches have to be outward looking. They have to be able to work very effectively in partnership and in collaboration with other organisations. They tend to therefore have quite flat hierarchies and quite porous organisational boundaries, because those are the kind of things that encourage genuine long-term partnership working and systems change. I'm a big fan of evidence-based, evidence-informed policy and practice. I think that we've seen big gains both in the criminal justice sector, but again in other sectors where evidence has been used consistently and rigorously to inform thinking. So I'm a big fan of the use of evidence. However, I think there is a challenge for the use of evidence in criminal justice, and that is that the model of evidence-based policy and evidence-based practice that we tend to subscribe to has its origins in the health sector, where interventions are sometimes easier to define and easier to control the dosage of. And it's easier to understand whether or not there is good fidelity to a particular intervention. In criminal justice, that's obviously much harder, because a lot of interventions in criminal justice are much more relational, and they are often part of larger sets of interventions that are being delivered in multi-agency settings where maybe many different organisations and partners have a role in supporting an individual, in managing risk, etc. So the challenge here, I think, is how we use evidence in criminal justice. And I think the advice here really is to recognise that while evidence is really important and we should take note of evidence, it's going to be hard in the criminal justice sector, whether we're talking about adults in the probation or prison service or young people in the youth justice sector. It's harder to rigorously and very consistently enforce a particular model and a particular set of evidential rules. So we have to be more interpretive. We have to be prepared to look at evidence in the round. We have to spend time thinking about what the context is that we're working in and how well the evidence matches the context.